Today we're going to talk about my top 10 tips for taking a toddler or a baby to Disney World. What's up guys, it's Hannah. Welcome back to my channel. We just took my son to Disney World and this is his second time and he's not even 2 yet. So I figured I have a couple of tips and tricks to share with parents who are taking their kids to Disney. Now the really cool thing about Disney World is like anyone can do Disney World in kind of like their own specific way. So the way that we do Disney World may not be the way that you do Disney World. So some of these things may not work for you, but this is just what works for us and I figured I would share it. The number one tip I would have for you if you're taking a baby or a toddler to Disney World is to stay on site. The reason you want to stay on site is because honestly, it just makes it so much easier, so much more convenient. The transportation from your resort to the theme parks is vital. And honestly, it makes it so convenient for you if you're staying on site. You can just hop on a bus or the monorail or the Skyliner, depending on where you're staying, and get to the theme park. Your budget for the trip really determines where you're going to be able to stay. But honestly, even the value resorts are really, really nice because you can take the buses. So even with staying at a value resort, you can use the buses and buses will take you literally anywhere on the Disney property, which is fantastic. But if you want to spend a little bit extra and still stay in that value range, you could stay at Pop Century, which is what I would personally do, and get access to the Skyliner. So the Skyliner is kind of like a gondola system, and from Pop Century you can get to other resorts, but you can also get to Hollywood Studios and Epcot, which is super, super nice. And if you choose to do the park hopper option, you will be able to take the monorail from Epcot to Magic Kingdom, which kind of allows you to get to any park other than Animal Kingdom without even getting on a bus. It just allows you so much more flexibility. There are also moderate or deluxe resorts where you can get Skyliner or monorail transportation options. No matter what, even if you're staying at the all-star resorts, you're gonna have access to the buses and those can get you anywhere that you need to go and you don't have to have a car seat. You can literally just take your kid, take your stroller, fold it up and get on the bus and go. Tip number 2 would be to take snacks. I feel like with a baby or a toddler, they aren't going to want to eat everything that you eat in the parks, and you don't want to go searching for something that they specifically want to eat. So if you bring meals for them or even just snacks for them into the parks, it's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of headache trying to find something for them to eat. So they probably honestly don't care what they eat. That could also help you save some money on your trip. So if you drive to Disney, I would literally just go grocery shopping or do a grocery pickup like a couple days before you go to the parks and take it with you down to Disney World. But if you fly, you can also do a grocery delivery and they will deliver it directly to your hotel lobby or your hotel room. And that's a really great way for you to be able to have all the snacks that you need without actually having to go out once you get to Orlando. Don't worry if you need to microwave or heat things up, because tip number 3 is to use the baby care centers. Baby care centers are located at one central location in each park, and it's usually kind of near the entrance. And it's easier to find if you look up first aid on the park maps because they're usually right beside each other. But the baby care centers are fantastic. Honestly, one of my favorite things that we do at Disney World is visit the baby care centers. They have microwaves so that you can heat up your foods. They have like the little bottle makers so that you can use the baby breza, I don't know what it's called. But they have those. They have like water so that you can make a bottle if you need to make a bottle. They usually have bathrooms for you. And then they also have a little store where you can buy anything that you forgot, like diapers or little pouches for them to eat. So we really love utilizing the baby care center, and I think that more people should, because anytime we go in there, it's like not crowded at all. And I feel like people just don't know about it or don't know like how good it actually is. Tip number 4 is one that we've learned from experience, and that is to have a stroller cover. So you really never know when it's gonna rain in Orlando, and it could be like a 30% chance of rain when you leave, and then when you get to Orlando, it could be like an 85% chance of rain that day, which means it's gonna rain that day. And you wanna be able to keep your kid like out of the rain, out of the wind, out of all of the elements. So just go ahead and get a baby stroller cover. They are super inexpensive on Amazon. I'll link the one that we used. It helped us so much. It rained like constantly nonstop on our last trip. So him being in that stroller with the stroller cover really, really helped us keep him warm and dry. So I would recommend that you pack that literally anytime that you go. The first time we took him, we did not have one of these. We didn't even pack it. We didn't think we would need it. and then it rained for like only 15 minutes, but his stroller was soaking wet, which was not fun. So I highly recommend taking one of those no matter what the forecast is for your trip. Tip number 5 would be to know your parks and know where you can go and what your kid can do. So for example, Hollywood Studios is not a great place to take a baby unless you have people who can child swap going on vacation with you. So if you book a full day at Hollywood Studios and don't have the park hopper option and you think that you're gonna be able to ride lots of things, it's gonna be a lot harder for you to do that. Hollywood Studios has, I want to say, 2 rides that your kid could actually do, which is super, super low compared to other parks. So I would check into the height requirements just so that you know exactly what your kid can ride, what they can't ride, and what parks are gonna be the best for you to spend your time at. We obviously like to spend a lot of time at Magic Kingdom. There's a lot that John Parker can do there. Hollywood Studios is kind of more of a difficult park if you have a kid. Animal Kingdom only has 5 attractions total, and toddlers aren't able to ride Dinosaur, Everest, or Flight of Passage. And really, kids can only do Navi River Journey, and it's tough to be a bug. So there's not tons for them to do in terms of rides at Animal Kingdom, but Animal Kingdom does have a lot of sights that they can see. It's like, I don't want to say this because Disney people hate when you say this, but it's like a giant zoo, and you can go around and look at tons of animals and see lots of different shows, and kids really do like that part of it. At Epcot, I would honestly say Spaceship Earth is super fun, and then Journey into Imagination with Figment is great. Like, it's full of colors and just like imagination. Kids honestly really will like that. Frozen is great, and they will probably also like Ratatouille. But other than that, you're doing a lot of walking at Epcot, so just be aware of that. If your kid doesn't like being in a stroller, you just need to know things about the parks before you go. We like to spend a lot of time at Magic Kingdom because it's just the most like family-friendly, kid-friendly park. Tip number 6 would be to buy a bubble wand before you go, because honestly, it's like a lifesaver. So bubble wands in the parks are like $25, $28, something like that, which is pretty insane when you can go buy a Mickey bubble wand at like Walmart or the Dollar General and take it to the parks with you. I'm not kidding you when I say that our bubble wand was really a lifesaver on our trip. JP loved that thing when he was sitting in his stroller, when he got bored, when he needed something to do. We gave him his bubble wand and he would just play and play and play with that. It made waiting in lines so less stressful because he had something to do to keep him entertained. So I mentioned child swap, and that would be tip number 7. Utilize the child swap. Honestly, this is something that is so helpful so that you can ride with one kid or by yourself if you only have one kid, which is our case. You can ride first and your husband can watch the kids, and then once you get off the ride, you switch and he can go ride the rides, if that makes any sense. So the way that you do this is you walk up to the lightning lane, and there's usually like an umbrella, and you just go to the umbrella, go to where they're scanning people in for the lightning lanes, and you tell them that you need a child swap. You all go up there and they're like, okay, who's gonna ride first? Person who rides first is gonna go in, and then you get to scan your magic band, or I guess if you don't have a magic band, you would scan your phone, and it basically just gives you a return time for a child swap. It's super, super convenient, and it's really the only way that you can ride rides that your kids aren't tall enough for if you go without anyone else to help watch them. So we love using child swap, and we even used child swap on our last trip when my parents and Levi's mom all went with us to the parks. They would go ride something and we would scan in for a child swap, and then once they got off, they would watch JP and we would go ride the rides. It's just a really good way to make sure that you're not missing out on anything just because your kid is not old enough to ride yet. My 8th tip that I would have for you is to make sure that you figure out some like play areas in each park where you can let your kid out of his stroller and let him play. Having a baby or a toddler who can walk and crawl and wants to go everywhere confined in a stroller all day is terrible. So there are really good places in each park where you can just let your kid out, let him or her run around, and kind of like get out of the way of all of the crowds so that you're not like making people trip over your child. In Magic Kingdom, I would check the Hubgrass, and I would also check in Tomorrowland because there's a lot of space over there if there's not like a character on stage. In Epcot, they actually have lots of room for kids to run around. In Hollywood Studios, I would say to take them back down towards the Lightning McQueen Racing Academy, and there's lots of room to run over there. And Animal Kingdom has trails and trails and trails on Discovery Island. That would be really fun for your kid to be able to get out of a stroller and take a break. Tip number 9 would be to bring an extra pair of clothes and maybe 2 extra pairs of clothes into the parks. We like to bring an extra pair of clothes that he could wear during the day, and then we also like to bring his like onesie pajamas that he could change into so that it's easier if he falls asleep in the parks and we just take him straight back to the resort and we want to let him go directly to sleep. Then it'd be great for him to be able to already be in his pajamas so that we don't have to wake him up and change him. The extra pair of clothes is vital because sometimes kids are messy. Like our last day in Magic Kingdom, John Parker took his milk and literally dumped it all over himself while he was in his stroller. And that was an absolute disaster. And if we didn't have an extra pair of clothes, he would have been milk soaked all day. So just make sure you have an extra pair of clothes and maybe some pajamas so that you can change them into that at night. And then tip number 10 is to take them before they turn 3 because they are free until they're 3. So take them as much as you possibly can. Let them enjoy that. People always say like, they're not gonna remember this, they're not gonna remember this, why are you taking them? And honestly, they might not remember it, but you will. You'll have the memories, you will have pictures, and you'll have videos, and it's so much fun to watch how much they light up and love Disney just as much as you do, and maybe even more. So take them before they turn 3, even if they're not gonna remember it. Don't try to put off your Disney trip until they're gonna remember it and say like, oh yeah, we'll start going again once they turn 5 and they'll remember it, just because you think like, it'd be expensive to take another kid and we can't really do that much if we have a kid, but you can ride all the rides, you can take them, and you guys will have fun as a family. So those are my top 10 tips for taking a baby or a toddler to Disney World. If you have any more questions, let me know. I will gladly answer those in the comments, or I'll make another video. Make sure you go check out my Disney World vlogs. Since we just got back, I am uploading those, and I love reliving my memories with my family on these vlogs. So go check those out if you would like to. Make sure you like this video if you found anything helpful, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss more mom and Disney content. And I will see you guys real soon. Bye.